Hello, delicious friends, and welcome back to the Developer Sessions, here at EGX Rezzed 2017. Thank you very much to everyone in the room for being here, and hello to everyone watching online. Of course, do remember, if you want to catch up with this later on, it will be on YouTube. But anyway, I am very excited to be here chairing this panel on Sunless Skies, which of course was hugely funded on Kickstarter. I am joined by some lovely people from Failbetter. Could I ask you to introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Liam Welton. I'm game director at Failbetter Games.
I am DeCuir. I'm one of our writers.
And I'm Lottie Bevan. I am the producer.
Fantastic. Now, first thing I should say really is congratulations for having the game funded to the tune of 377% on Kickstarter. You were fully funded in 4 hours. How was that as an experience?
Well, it's very useful, we found out, if you set your goal at 100,000 because working out the percentages is dead easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was amazing. It was an incredible kind of experience.
I mean, we walked out of the office at the end of the day, went our several ways, and when I finished up my movie for the evening, I walked out of the theater and we were funded. So it's just incredible, and it's been remarkable to see the outpouring of community support.
Yeah, we were live streaming at the time, so we were kind of refreshing the page, and I think in 4 minutes it got up, as I said, like to 11K, and then like everyone was like, "Come on, you need to refresh this quicker." Like it was just such an exciting experience.
That's fantastic. Now, I'm assuming everyone in this room knows what Sunless Skies is, but if there's anyone watching at home who perhaps doesn't know, could you just give us the basic kind of overview of what the game is?
Sure.
Prepare this.
There's a little known time in London's history when in about 1860, London was stolen by bats. Queen Victoria sold it to a shadowy group known as the Masters, and for about 40, 50 years in the Neath, London dwelled. But now, Victoria has forged an empire in space, and this is it's not so deep and dark, but it's still certainly marvelous world, now set in a Victorian empire in the galactic spheres. Fantastic.
I have to say, on a personal note, I am very, very glad to see that Sky Barnet exists as a thing. I think Low Barnet was one of my favourite jokes in Sunless Sea, so to see that
great.
It lives on.
It's the only thing that I wrote.
Good. Well, I'm glad that we could bring that out, Liam. So I guess what's been going on since you were fully funded? What have you been up to in the interceding time?
Drinking through it, all the money. None left now. Can't afford to make the game.
So we will be sending a pint glass round. If anyone could just stick a quid or two in there.
I think we've been working towards getting it out in the hands of players as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. So we're working towards a closed beta, which will be happening in about a month's time. Planning to release it to early access too, to get some real feedback on like the core features that will make the game. Focusing on kind of one particular region rather than getting a kind of super shonky version of the whole game out there.
Sure.
So yeah, just kind of going through different themes and trying to make sure there's a little bite-sized piece for people to get their teeth into.
Cool. I mean, talking about the mechanics that you mentioned there, obviously the game shares a good amount of DNA with Sunless Sea. Could you maybe talk about some of the mechanics that are persisting and how they might have changed between the two games, and basically, what's changed?
I'm going to actually slightly turn because I feel like I'm shunning this half of the audience. So we've been looking at ways that the actual shape of the world we're creating are going to impact the mechanics we had in Sunless Sea. So as Lottie mentioned, you're going to be exploring 4 separate regions in the game, and there are going to be different powers and forces at work there. And so it's going to be a lot more about journeys within a region and returning to these kind of like central hubs, which are controlled by particular factions. So whereas in Sunless Sea, you'll be dealing with how much fuel to take, what supplies to take, what routes to take to avoid like your crew going mad, and that would be taking place over like a very long journey. What you're going to find this time round is these ships these like locomotives are going to be much smaller than the vehicles in Sunless Sea were, and it's going to be a lot more about kind of going, am I actually going to make it to that next port over there? There's going to be a lot about like these very sort of like intense journeys and making sure that you're making those trade-offs between like how much profit you think you can make selling a good in a specific port against like the risk of you just like running out of fuel halfway through. So really, it's a bit of a shift from Sunless Sea's kind of very like long, kind of like marathon style, kind of like survival challenges to like a series of kind of like intense, dramatic sprints.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask my next question. Well, it still is this. In Sunless Sea, obviously, you know, death was very much a part of the experience, but it meant that you oftentimes were replaying the opening stuff as a way to get back on your feet very quickly. I mean, like Tomb Colonist, a vendor bite, go sell the thing over here. And I think some people maybe, you know, they butted up against that. And I believe in the past you've said that that's something you're kind of looking at. Is the opening experience going to change for players in that way, or is there still going to be kind of a bit of going over previously covered ground?
Well, one of the other changes that we've made with our story engine, so in Sunless Sea, of course, you know, you would go to a port and you'd have the page open up and you'd have all of your options there. But right now we're looking at having different qualities which either persist through your captains. So one captain might be going ahead and moving a port forward, moving that story forward, and when your next captain returns, instead of having to do all of that again, you have that progress saved. Other qualities might not persist. They might reset, so your captain has to do it again. But we are looking at adding ways to vary the experience from play to play so that it's not just having to slog through the same stories over and over again.
Sure. And I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, one of the big themes that was in Sunless Sea and isn't in Sunless Skies is the theme of sort of returning home after a long, dangerous journey. And obviously there's still a big theme of travel throughout Sunless Skies, but it's not so much focused on actually going back to the same place that you started from. So I think that was one of the reasons that people would replay a lot of content, because when you died, you'd always start in Fallen London. Whereas I think we're going to be experimenting in Sunless Skies with starting you off from different places in the game. So it's not going to be like a roulette, but you will find yourself hitting a series of milestones throughout the game, where once you're past that point, if you die, you'll start back there.
Right.
So you shouldn't be going back to 0% all the time.
Sure. Okay, that's very interesting. Death, presumably then, is still very much a big part of the experience.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Like I think people will die as much, if not more, in this game. I hope they will anyway.
It does make our community management very difficult, though. I found myself typing like, you will die a lot, and having to be like, no, delete, or character.
I think what the change this time is, hopefully, when you die, there will be more of a sense that you are continuing on from the point that your last captain left off, rather than feeling... Obviously, in Sunless Sea, you were making progress captain to captain, but you should feel that much more immediately in this game. So, within your first kind of like couple of hours playing it, you'll probably die a couple of times, but you'll be starting off in a stronger position each time.
Sure. Have you got? Can you give us a taste of any of the things that are going to be mercilessly killing you out in the far reaches of space?
Bees.
Space bees.
Yep.
A sky full of bees. The sky that is bees, indeed. Bees which crash down upon your ship and maybe even infest it if you're lucky enough. You could be going along, see this wonderful swarm of chorister bees whose wings do not buzz but sing, playing song, the hymn of carnage. And as you're going along, you may be successful in the combat, but if they do take a hold in your hold, you may have a story popping up about an infestation of bees on your spaceship, and God have mercy on your soul.
Now, you see, it's all very well for you. You can say all of that, but I need to work out how to animate that little thing.
Well, that's your problem now.
Yeah. Thanks for writing me that check.
Oh, I'm very happy to have done so.
I've been doing this job for nearly 10 years, and I've never asked a question in an interview and then been so immediately aware of the fact I've bitten off more than I can chew.
That's what we like to do at Failbetter.
Fantastic. I cannot wait to see that become reality. I understand there is a new art pipeline for the generation of sort of cities and spaceports. Is that correct?
Yeah. Obviously the kind of like the nature of the world that we're creating this time. There's no sea. I mean, it's missing from the title. Spoiler alert, it's missing from the game. So all of these cities that and like these like settlements you're going to be exploring are kind of bolted together by these ingenious engineers, and they're going to be a lot more modular. They're going to be you're going to be able to sail around them in a lot more detail. But this is all stuff we're just sort of exploring with. I mean, one of the things that is perhaps not immediately kind of apparent when you see the Kickstarter is everything that you've seen so far is everything we've got. Like, we know the sort of game that we want to make, but we are really at the very beginning with it. And it's going to be shaped over like the next couple of months and through early access. So these are all just like exciting things we're sort of experimenting with. And it's an amazing time to be in the office because you like go in and like you look at someone's machine and you're like, we're going to do that? That's so cool. So yeah, like that's, at the minute, everything's starting to sort of like fit into place.
And I think that's the luxury of doing a game that is heavily inspired by a game that we've already completed and shipped. We already answered a lot of questions with Sunless Sea, so we're not starting from like totally a blank page, which allows us to kind of experiment with stuff we know and try maybe a bit more sort of bravely with other things that we don't know about. So yeah, it is very exciting.
And particularly with content, I wrote some of the ports for our Submariner expansion, and being able to translate the lessons there of writing the ports has really just, I think, streamlined it for the entire content team.
Excellent. Well, we're going to, in just a minute, open up to some audience Q&A. So if you do have any questions, maybe start forming a line behind the microphone, which will be placed in a convenient location very, very shortly. Don't be shy. In the meantime, let's talk about cannibalism. Because obviously it wouldn't be an interview about a Failbetter game if we didn't talk about people eating people. Is it in there? How crucial is it to survival? I don't know. Let's talk cannibalism, basically.
Well, so one of the things I think we're interested in trying a new method for in Sunless Skies is roleplay. And I think it will be an RPG game. Sunless Sea was an RPG roguelike. And I think we're particularly interested in being more like an RPG this time around. But as we murder our players quite a lot, we also want to challenge them in terms of who they are in their character when they play the game. So I think, Liam, you said that you wanted to make cannibalism a little bit more mundane, and you wanted to slip it in there, so it wasn't so much of a choice. You kind of look back at yourself when you were 30 hours into the game, or whatever, and thought, I have been eating a lot of people, rather than kind of making a conscious decision. Because, it's harsh out there. You're going to have to make a lot of compromises to continue to not die. And you might find yourself like slipping a little bit in one really stressful situation, but it was definitely not what you normally do. And then 5 hours later, you've eaten your entire crew and your left foot, and then I guess you are a cannibal now. Is that right?
Well, I think one of the areas we get to explore in a like a roguelike RPG as opposed to like a traditional RPG is in like a trad RPG, players are given choices, and then they're basically, a lot of the time, just kind of told, make whatever choice, like, kind of follow your bliss. Like, go become the person that you want to be. And our games say, go do that, but do remember you're going to have to make it back alive. So, you might actually have to kick that person overboard, or you might have to pull that body in from overboard and chow down. So it's constantly sort of saying to you, yes, you can define your character, but your character is also going to be defined by the tough choices they have to make.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really just struck me when you said that is with a sort of traditional non-roguelike RPG, the consequences are there, they exist, but they are more in the future, whereas I think with a roguelike, they're much more in the now. It has to be, you need to make it back, you need to stay alive. And so the lengths that we can offer the player to maintain that character they're playing to stay alive are much more dramatic and satisfying and grotesque.
It's one of those moments where you kind of go, oh, my character wouldn't do that. And then the game turns around and says, well, then your character dies. That's what happens to the good person you've been playing. They die.
Excellent, and that is the most detailed answer I've ever had about cannibalism. So thank you for that. We're now going to open it up to some audience Q&A, so approach the mic.
Okay, so you talked about homecoming being less of a theme in this game, and in Sunless Sea, the bond between the different captains that you created was obviously familial, and you had the option to start a family. But if there's going to be less of an emphasis on a home that you return to, will that change the nature of the connection between your different captains, and will you be unable to start a family this time around?
I mean, I don't know the answer to that one. I mean, what I can tell you is I think the emphasis this time is less around a particular sense of loss of a specific place and trying desperately to return to that specific place, and more about finding community and survival and human warmth amongst like the vast bleakness of space. So you should still definitely feel that you have a strong connection with other characters you meet in the game, and that you will be able to form very strong bonds. I'm not sure if they will be familial yet. We certainly haven't like officially ruled it out. But I think that the family stuff that is so specific to Fall in London back in Sunless Sea will be replaced by like your friends and your comrades who you meet along the way and whom you can take with you if you wish.
Yes, I think it'll be much more about, and again, it's early days yet, this is always subject to change, but more about who you are in the dark, who you are on the frontier, who you are in your little ship, and the lengths you're willing to go through to survive there, and the lengths you're going to go through to make your mark on the universe at large throughout our 4 regions. We will have several conflicts spanning between them, and I think the player's investment, instead of being mostly emotionally in London, will be spread across throughout all of their conflicts and stories, much more than they were in Sunless Sea.
Yeah, it's definitely the people that you meet while you're out there, and the impact you have on them and the impact they have on you are going to be in some ways more as important, if not more important, than your connection to your captains. So if you happen to fall in with a villainous bunch and then you pass away, the person who follows on in your stead may get a helping hand from the people who you
From a
knocked
shady
about
sort,
with.
you might say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was a great answer.
Do feel free to start a queue, by the way, behind the microphone.
So I see you've got this wonderful lantern as the title image, a bit like you had with Sunless Sea. So I'd like you to talk a bit about the darkness and about how much terror is going to affect our adventures.
The darkness? Oh, very good. Well, we have 4 regions, as I mentioned earlier. We have the Reach, which is this verdant frontier. Albion, which is London now, empire of clockwork and tremendous engineering. We have Eleutheria, I believe it is. No, before that, we have the Blue Kingdom, which is order and wonder, the sublimity, and Eleutheria, which is more a region of darkness, a region of chaos, a region where you can get away with a lot more. And as far as terror, we have reworked the mechanic in what I think is very wonderful and exciting ways. Anyone want to say a bit more on how terror is working these days?
Well, I was actually going to pick up your point about light. You have no idea how excited the writers are to be able to use light. I mean, I know it says sunless still, but that is totally a lie. There are definitely like suns. So that's a terrible decision that we made. But there are so many trees being written about because finally the writers can be like, greenery.
I can talk about wind blowing across your face at last. There's so much you can...
I think it's giving you too much power, to be honest. I liked it.
Fair enough.
We restricted
Back in
you
your
more.
box.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are interested in light, both thematically and what that means for the stories we can tell. But we are going to be playing with it sort of functionally too. So there will certainly be parts of the game where your light is the only light. The rest of it is extreme darkness. So similar to creatures in the deep sea, you need it to see and you need it to exist yourself, but you run the risk of attracting some other creatures out there who aren't used to seeing the light and maybe are interested in you. So that's something that I think what existed in Sunless Sea. We played around with kind of lights in the darkness, but we're going to further in Sunless Skies.
Another thing we're going to be looking at is the way that sort of like environmental phenomena can have a positive and negative effect on the mental well-being of your crew. So in Sunless Sea, it's a lot about just like stick close to like the edge of land. But what we kind of found out after we finished making it was sometimes you'd be skirting around something that was absolutely terrifying, but your crew was kind of going, I'm so glad we're right next to this giant set of bones. So now the reactions of your crew are going to be much more closely tied to how wonderful or terrible the things they're encountering are. So you as a captain will be making decisions like, okay, so I've got enough fuel to get us back to port, but I might just like steer clear of that elephant's graveyard with all of those corpses floating in it, because my crew didn't like it last time, and instead I'll go past that lovely like verdant forest that cheered their spirits. So
why locomotives?
I love trains. Why locomotive? Well,
It's aesthetically right.
yeah.
Trains in space, together at last. Everyone's been thinking it. We've finally done it.
So the Victorian era was obviously a period of tremendous innovation, and one of the things that we're excited to kind of like explore is this idea of what if you took the innovative nature of like the Victorians, who were otherwise not terribly good people, and you set them loose on like this like new space. And the first thing we kind of thought was it would end up looking like the like the ultimate nightmare of like cities gone haywire, like technology almost completely out of control. And as soon as you try and think what would a Victorian spaceship look like one of the first thing we were drawn to was locomotives, because they're like these big, heavy, noisy things that are essentially just all engine, and they could at any moment go disastrously wrong. And if you ever look at what happens to a train when it explodes, like it's an utter nightmare, and that's we want to make our players have those nightmares.
I guess also the Victorians they did such a lot of like colonization that they were really worried, I think, about maintaining their own integrity as like British Victorians. So they didn't like sort of changing themselves, even when they were in situations or environments that weren't suited to them. Like obviously Britain is basically wet and cold and normal, and kind of like it's all basically fine. And you don't have to sort of fight off tigers or learn how to breathe in a void. But when they went abroad and did the whole empire thing, that they really kept the Britishness that they had learned, even if it wasn't suited. So you had people passing out in crinolines in India and just like refusing to admit that was a stupid thing to wear. So we do think that kind of, they knew how to build excellent locomotives. They were really interested in it. And why should it being in space stop them building more locomotives? Right.
How much impact will your actions have on the world as a whole? Like in the trailer, they say murder a son. What would that actually mean? Like, how would that change things?
Yeah, cash.
Very well. As I mentioned, you as a captain will create a lineage. What you do may persist to your next captain and even the captain beyond and beyond. Each of the 4 regions, I believe, will have its own central conflict. So in the Reach, for instance, which is the first area where the player will begin their journey and where I think we're going to look at having complete for early access, the primary conflict there is between London and the people of the frontier who want their independence. So you have, on one side the Tackety Jacks, who are this sort of a cartoon figure of independence, and the Stovepipes, Stovies, who are old London. And what you do in the Reach will affect that conflict. Maybe you come across one port and you'll find a few stories there or a few options there, and what you do might move the world one way, it might move the world another way, and when that captain dies, it'll stay roughly the same, but it can fluctuate in the meanwhile. And that opens to us on the writing team a whole world of possibilities of what we can do. Maybe you'll have new shops opening in certain ports. Maybe you'll affect the prices. The bargains you can find will be different. The prospects will be different. The quests you can perform to move one side or the other will be different. So you will be seeing a lot of change in the content itself, depending on what you do in these conflicts.
Thank you very much.
In Sunless Seas, the combat was quite slow-paced, and I found oftentimes it would just end up with me trying to circle around on an enemy who was trying to circle around on me to get into each other's firing arc. And I think I read on your Kickstarter that you were planning on tweaking the combat mechanics a bit. I'm just wondering if you can say anything about that.
Tweaking.
Or reworking it entirely.
Throwing it out. Yeah, so we're currently about to start work on combat. We have an idea and a direction in which we're going to take it, but that is really something we want to feel out over the next couple of months and during early access. But there's certainly things we know that it won't be, based on last time. The whole idea of so we wanted to try and simulate the experience of naval combat, and naval combat is a lot about positioning and range, and we don't have. We don't really want to simulate that in the same way. There is no notion of what Victorian, space combat will be like. So we're sort of feeling quite liberated in that respect. What we do suspect is going to play a big factor this time round is everything up there is quite experimental, and stability is likely to be a big part of it. Like, you may have a big, powerful arsenal of weapons, but how reliable they're going to be, the damage that even using them might, wreak upon your vessel, they're kind of the questions.
So sort of like the fuel, like overdrive mechanic from Sunless Seas, where you push your engines harder, but you risk blowing them up kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be, risk-reward for the things that you can perform. So it's going to be down to you whether you want to play it safe or, take the risk.
Awesome. That sounds great. Cheers, guys.
So on the Kickstarter page, you said that there was going to be a lot more customization of your ships than in Sunless Seas. There was a little gif of putting on Gatling guns and extra armor. How in-depth is that going to be, and to what extent can you make your own ship?
Well, again, we're finalizing this art pipeline, so we are still working out exactly how much kind of detail we can have, certainly at the level of visibility the player will have, because it's not right up close to a ship, and we're never going to make a game. I don't think that's going to be right up and close actually with the characters in it. So you need to be aware of actually how much it makes sense to customize a ship that you're quite far away from. That having been said, we're playing around with ideas of colors, so you can decide if you want to fly the flag of a particular affiliation or a particular group. Like Cash mentioned, the Tacketies and the Stovepipes. If you find yourself wanting to roleplay as somebody who's really pro-old London, you can make that clear through the decals on your ships. And we're also playing around with how much detail we can put on your locomotives, about your different armor types and your different weaponry. So in Sunless Sea, you're right that you would see occasional small visual changes, but most of the time it was the same base model for the ship that you had chosen to sail. Whereas we're hoping to enable you to really see every single difference and change you make to your ship in Sunless Skies.
Will you be able to have different types of train whistle?
You know you are speaking to the biggest whistle fan right here.
Yeah. No one loves whistles more than Liam.
Yeah, maybe. So like some of the things you're going to be able to customize are, as with like Sunless Sea, we're going to give you choice, but it's always going to come at a cost. And like I say, like up there, it's not like the Victorian Empire who had been building ships for like generations. Like this is all experimental stuff. And if you want to go out there and stand a chance against some of the things circling out in the darkness, you want to get yourself nice and armored up. That is going to come at the expense of you being able to carry as much stuff in your hold, or possibly having that piece of equipment that will help you survive like a particular patch of weather. Or even like we're going to be experimenting with the idea of like smuggling. You'll be able to fit out parts of your ship with like secret compartments, so that when the constabulary come on board and start poking about, and you've got all of your illicit goods, you can either have them out on display and they'll immediately go, right, you're nicked, or you get them smuggled away. But that is going to come at a price, and that price is usually going to be an opportunity to fit something else to your ship.
All right, thank you very much.
Totally avoided answering the question about the whistle there, didn't I?
I have my fingers crossed for the whistle, my friend. There is a faction against.
Hello there. The original Sunless Seas, I believe, was developed in Unity. What kind of tools do you have to develop in Unity to help you create that, and what did you wish you had from the start?
So in Sunless Sea, basically all of the narrative stuff. If anyone here's played Fallen London, the narrative engine that powers Fallen London is right in the heart of Sunless Sea. Whenever you open up your gazetteer, you're basically playing Fallen London, and all the data there comes from our server. We basically publish it all to JSON files, and then, getting very technical here, I'll try and simplify it, I think. But it all gets like published down, and then we've got like these little files. They're all text files, and so we started working like that. And then when we started building the world, we went, we'll just put it all in text files because we do everything that way. And then we got to about 2/3 of the way through making the game, and we were like, how do we add something again? Like, where is that island? Like, getting lost. Like, we had like maps of where we'd put things in the game we were building. This time around, we were like, no, we want to have like level design tools. So like we're already at that stage now. Like, it is easier to make content for Sunless Skies than it ever was for Sunless Sea. You can fire up a scene in Unity. You can have a sail about. Like, we've got like our first like 5 or 6 ports. Like, they're not finished yet, but they are there. You can sail about it, and it took us like months upon months to get to that stage in Sunless Sea. So yeah, definitely like level design tools, like, kind of like hand roll level design tools. That's the thing that we wish we had, and yay, we have.
Well, as a slight follow-up then, is there anything for Sunless Sky that you're looking to be developed, or say a final year project at university was looking for ideas?
So I'm currently looking at animation, and one thing that I'm going to be looking at quite closely is a way of making like animations that can be sort of modular. The responsiveness of the ship this time round is going to be like much faster than Sunless Sea, and as a result, you need quite immediate feedback on where it's turning, what it's doing, and the animation pipeline we had last time round was just it was a bit too clunky. Like, you were either doing one thing or the other. And now this time round we're sort of like layering it on top of one another, but this requires a lot of like pre-planning and making sure it works across all of the different vessels. So tools to help with animation. That's kind of one of the big things that we're going to be looking at this time around.
Awesome, cheers.
Right, well, I think that about does it for our Sunless Skies panel. Lottie, Cash, and Liam, thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you to everyone in the audience who came up with some very great questions. Our next panel will be Creative Assembly discussing the future of Total War. You do not want to miss that, I promise you. But in the meantime, please do give a very warm round of applause to our guests. Thank you so much.